The camera pans over a neat upscale living room. Charts and graphs littered across the coffee table. A young man in his upper 30s, Jay Johnson, clean-shaven, clothed in expensive designer suit, tense and frantically checking updates on several screens. He wipes away desperation, drenched beads of sweat from his forehead. Jay Johnson says, "Damn, I can't believe this is happening to me." He is breathing heavily and shaking a lot. Both the stock and the company shares of stock take a dive and the stock drops around 50 points in one day. His phone is on vibrate and keeps ringing, but he is not answering. Meanwhile, later that day inside an Italian restaurant, Jay Johnson is talking to a man near a big table in a dark room in the back where there are a lot of windows. Rico, a mafia boss, is playing with his gold rings and wearing a black suit and looking at his gold watch with diamonds covered in a circular pattern. Rico, the mafia boss, says to Jay Johnson, "So, you'll give the money back by Monday night, right, Johnson?" Jay Johnson says, "Yes, Rico. The investment will go through this weekend, I promise, with my life boss." Jay Johnson shakes Rico's hand and leaves the restaurant and walks down the block. Interior of Johnson's apartment the next morning. Johnson is glued to the TV screens and the computer screens. The stocks are tumbling, dropping down and down and down. The stock drops over 50% in the wrong direction. Johnson's face drops just like the stock. He realizes the severity of his situation if he does not pay the mafia boss the money he owes him. Johnson says again, "This can't be happening to me today. I know the stock will go up again. This is just a phase." Interior of Johnson's kitchen Saturday afternoon. Johnson's wife Rebecca, beautiful young woman in her 30s, is watching her husband pace anxiously around the room. Rebecca, Johnson's wife, says, "Are you okay, honey?" Johnson just says, "Work stuff, honey. I love you. Don't worry, the stock will be okay. Put a lot of money in an investment and the stock tanked, but will go up on Monday if the stock market bells close." Johnson's phone vibrates and he looks down at his phone and sees an encrypted text pops on his phone and has a threat from Rico. "I will kill your wife at 4:35 p.m. Monday if I do have my money in my hand at that time, and you will never see your family again." Johnson is very terrified and nervous. He turns around to his wife and says, "We might be going on vacation on Sunday or Monday afternoon, okay, baby?" Rebecca, his wife, says, "That sounds great, baby. Let me know when to pack and I can let my sister know so she can watch the dog." And they both walk into the bedroom and go to bed. Interior of Johnson's office the next day on Sunday afternoon. Johnson frantically tries to liquidate all his assets, facial reactions showing desperation and loss. Johnson picks up the phone and dials the number. He says with his voice, "Sell everything, everything." Johnson hangs up the phone and leaves the office and shuts off the light. Interior Johnson's apartment in the night time. Johnson is packing his bags. He is in a hurry, his hand barely stops shaking. Johnson says to his wife Rebecca, "We need to go now." Rebecca says, "What's happening, Johnson?" Johnson says, "No time, just trust me." They pack all their bags and drops off their dog at her sister's house and returns back. They get undressed and go to bed. They both say at the same time, "Good night and don't let the bed bugs bite." Exterior Johnson's apartment early Monday morning. The sun is shining in the sky, glaring over the city with traffic and horns blowing and people yelling at each other. Johnson and Rebecca get dressed and grab their bags and start escaping through the back door of the apartment. Exterior of hotel room near THE airport in the afternoon. Johnson counts his remaining money, and he falls short to buy the lunch for them to eat before going to drive to THE airport. Johnson said, "Baby, can I borrow $20 to go get a pizza for lunch? Want a whole pie with peppers, onions and sausages on the top." It is around 2 o'clock and both are hungry. The wife Rebecca says, "I will go get it and I will be back in about 45 minutes. See you soon, my love. I will take care of it." Rebecca leaves the hotel near THE airport and calls a taxi and says, "Take me to this address now. Want to get a hot Italian pizza pie with the works." The taxi drives off to the Italian restaurant to pick up the hot Italian pizza pie. Meanwhile, Johnson is walking back and forth the room and staring at his text messages as they are displayed on his phone. Message from Rico: "I am leaving the restaurant at 5 o'clock to collect my money. Make sure you do not leave town. One call and every airport will have my men sitting and waiting for and your family if I do not get my money and our business is over, understand?" Johnson leaves a message to his boss Rico, the mafia boss: "No problem, boss, you will have it exactly at 6 o'clock. Rico, the mafia boss, is sitting eating his lunch at his table and says to the waitress that he would like more bread and some grated cheese and more ice in my drink. The waitress walks over to his table, fills the water, puts ice in the drink, lays some more bread on the table, and puts the grated cheese next to him on the table and turns around and starts walking away. All of a sudden, Rico, the mafia boss, slaps her on the ass and says, "Thank you, baby. We'll see you tonight after 8 o'clock for dessert." The waitress walks in the kitchen and disappears into the smoke-filled air from all the cooking. The wife Rebecca walks back to the room with the large hot pizza pie and says, "Here baby, let's eat lunch and I took care of all your problems." They sit at the kitchen table and get the bottles of water and put down some plates and start eating pizza. Johnson says, "Baby, where's the grated cheese? You forgot my love." Rebecca says, "Forget about the cheese, you got me." Instead they smile and kiss each other. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant where Rico the mafia boss is eating. He pulls out the bread, takes a bite, starts chewing, pours the water into the glass so it fills up to the top, and drops one big ice cube and the water spills onto the table, and grabs the grated cheese and pours it onto the food and starts eating all of it, smiling to the waiter. Johnson and Rebecca leave the room at 4 o'clock and call a taxi and say, "Bring us to THE airport down the road. Our plane leaves at 5 o'clock. We are going to Hawaii for a week for vacation." Interior of the restaurant where Rico the mafia boss stands up at his table and calls the waiter. Waiter walks over to him and Rico falls onto the table, then onto the floor, and does not wake up. The patrons of the restaurant call the cops and the cops run to the dead body of Rico the mafia boss and said, "What happened?" The police check his vital signs and he is dead. The cop says he must have been poisoned. At the 5 o'clock the plane starts boarding and Rebecca and Johnson board the plane and they walk to their seats and sit down. Johnson pulls up the stock and sees that the stock tripled in value and said, "Lucky I took everything out of that stock, my love." He falls asleep in the plane. Rebecca opens up her laptop computer and starts looking at the stock market results. The person sitting down next to her say that stock made a lot people rich overnight. "Did you have any of it?" Rebecca looks at the person next to her and says, "Just $50 worth." The man next to her gets up and goes to the bathroom. Rebecca opens the laptop computer and reads the ending balance of $5 million in her joint account with her husband. She looks down and says, "I would love to have some dessert now." She closes the laptop computer and we see the plane fly in the sky with music playing softly.